As they went out of Jericho, a great crowd followed him. And behold, two blind men sitting by the roadside, when they heard that Jesus was passing by, cried out, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." The crowd rebuked them, telling them to be silent. But they cried out the more, "Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David." And Jesus stopped and called them, saying, "What do you want me to do for you?" They said to him, "Lord, let our eyes be opened." And Jesus in pity touched their eyes, and immediately they received their sight and followed him. This morning we have another story of healing that is in some shape, form, or fashion found also in not only the Gospel of Matthew, but Luke and Mark. In Matthew's Gospel, there are two persons sitting outside of Jericho on the road. Since I've started doing this, we've hit blind Bartimaeus and some other stories about blindness and sight, and it always makes you think, doesn't it? When you encounter these types of stories, their eyes were opened and immediately they followed Jesus. Is it spiritual blindness? Is it physical blindness? What is going on? There's multiple layers. The first thing to note is they're outside of Jericho on the roadside. Now, we've sort of lost that in our modern day, but to be outside of the city, to be on the roadside outside of the city begging, means that somehow you're not allowed or not worthy or to be in the city dwelling. So there were certain standards, and these two fellas did not meet those standards. So they are outside the city, which means they're less than human. They're alienated. They're castaways and cast out of society. So that's the first thing to note. And then when Jesus is leaving Jericho and is on the road, they start crying out for mercy. They start begging Jesus for mercy. "Son of David, have mercy on us." And it's interesting what the crowds following do, isn't it? The crowds following them try to silence them, tell them to hush, to go away. So in some ways, the crowd is saying that they're not worthy of Jesus' time or attention. So there's a lot going on in that, a lot to ponder. But they cry out all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on us." And then Jesus asks them the question, "What do you want me to do for you?" He has pity on them, touches their eyes, and immediately they see and follow Jesus. So there are sort of two threads here. The one where they are physically crippled, if you want to say that, or physically blind and cast away from society. You see their prayers. And one thing I love about that is we're all sort of trained not to come to Jesus with begging. We try to be proper and try to put others before ourselves, and are afraid to ask for things for ourselves. And a lot of times, or at least that's been my experience, that we are very proper and formal and don't want to ask too much. And so here you see the two men crying out. They don't care. They don't care who hears them, sees them. They don't care what is going on. They don't care if people try to quiet them. They beg Jesus for mercy. They show great humility. They show little concern or care for what anyone thinks of them other than Jesus, and beg for their sight, and they receive it. So think about that in your own prayer life. How fierce are you in your asking? Do you worry about what others think? Do you worry about this or that? Or do you beg, cry out and beg Jesus for mercy? I think that's important, an important thing. They see themselves as not having anything without Jesus and act in kind. A lot of us who see ourselves as sort of standing on our own feet and not being completely and totally, utterly dependent on Jesus for our very life, are a little less want to act that way. Now, the next thing is a spiritual part. Living outside the city in the wilderness, being on the roadside in the desert, in the wasteland, if you will, blind and begging for mercy. That's a story about losing our way, isn't it? It's a story about being alienated from community. It's a story about being isolated and alone and unloved and unwanted and lost. And that happens a lot too. They're completely hopeless and helpless in this way. And society has given up on them. Be quiet. Don't bother him. Son of David, have mercy. And their eyes are open and they follow Jesus. So that's more of an intellectual pursuit, isn't it? It's when we lose our way, think we can make it on our own, have difficulties with other folks, all kind of things, left to your own experiences and things like that. But a lot of times we might be like the two blind men on the road outside of Jericho. Alienated, misunderstood, lost, alone, unwanted, unloved. People yelling at us to go away, to don't bother. Don't be a bother. That's the time to cry out to Jesus. That's the time when you should know, we should know, I should know that we're not God and we can't make it on our own. That we're lost and blind and in a spiritual wilderness, a spiritual wasteland. And we need Jesus. We need the love and the grace and the mercy and the wisdom of God to make it down the road. And so at times we need to cry out. We need to cry out and be led by Jesus. And so there's a story in that. So think about these two blind men in your own life. How you pray compared to how they pray. Think about the journey and the road you're on right now. Is Jesus leading the way? Or are you more like the blind men on the side of the road, lost, alienated, begging for mercy, blind? If so, the answer to your quest and to your heartbreak and to your woes is found in this morning's story. So today, be kind, be loving, forgiving, pray for yourself and for others. Reach out, extend kindness, and make someone's day. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.